Welcome to episode 74 in the KIPS podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. We got another solo podcast here. Solo meaning it's just me, no guests today, but we're going to be talking about something that every fit pro, whether you're a group exercise instructor, personal trainer, strength coach, wellness coach, whatever you are on the fitness, health spectrum, where you are in your career, you're going to need it. You're going to need a strategy for social media. Now, this topic is one that it comes with experience. It comes with time. I think that social media, people have opinions about them. They could be good. They could be bad. They could differ depending on where they are in their life. But it is something that is essential for health and wellness professionals because it helps you build your business. Now, the key word of this podcast is going to be strategy. Finding a strategy is what is going to help you. I can't say that over and over, and I can't say it enough. That's what I'm trying to say there. I can't say it enough. And this episode, really comes from years of consulting, along with owning Time to Train Fitness and KIPS before those started and while I was growing those companies. I consulted for companies. It was a way to make money, pay my bills, also continue to be able to work in front of a computer. Of course, I did some training here and there, but consulting was a way to help other entrepreneurs, help other business owners, especially ones that needed help in the social media area. Because again, as I mentioned, it could differ on your experience, age, all those factors, but it's such a necessary tool. Now, I've done podcast episodes where we talk about this topic and even lectured on some of the items that I'm going to talk about. I lectured at conferences about it. And a comment that's always stood out to me is why don't we get more of this at fitness conferences? I was at a conference, I think it was at least 2.5 years ago, and I was taking questions, and a student that was attending it, participated, raises their hand and says, why don't we have more of stuff like this? And I didn't really have an answer for them, but it's one of those things where once you start to see, oh, wow, this can fit into my business. Oh, wow, I should really do this. Then it's time to really stick with it. Stick with it because it can take time. Don't expect for one post to all of a sudden blow up. Can it? Yeah, sure. All of a sudden, can one post get you a client? Yeah, but that doesn't mean you stop. You find things that work, and that all becomes a part of your strategy. Now, questions that you want to ask yourself before we even start talking about one of the strategies that I'm going to give you. And that first question is, well, what are you selling? Because this really helps you develop your posts, the content, the video, the image, the voice, whatever it is that you are selling, that should be apparent. Now, I've seen companies that I've consulted for that have a little bit of confusion with that aspect. They want to copy another company that they liked their post, but that's not what they sell. With Time to Train Fitness, with KIPS, I stick within their realms. I'm going to use Time to Train Fitness as an example because I'm going to be even talking about filler posts later on in this episode. But there are elements in there that are just about health and fitness. We give a little taste of what the workouts are like. Okay, go find it. Here's where you find it, but also have filler posts in there. But it's all geared towards health and fitness. If I was to now use those same posts for KIPS, the company that you're listening to the podcast for, it wouldn't make sense. We're not selling general fitness to the population. We're selling education to health and wellness professionals. So doing posts about working out, exercise, wellness, and general posts that are made for the general audience, they don't fit. And I see those posts all the time for even other educational companies out there right now. Right now, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Instagram, and you can see these posts and you'll be like, well, okay, I may agree with that, but what does this have to do with this company? What does this have to do with your education? It doesn't have to do anything with it. And that's where you have to think, what is it that I'm selling? What is it that I want to get across? And it all stays within that realm. Along those same lines now is something that I already mentioned, and that is, who is this post for? Having that person in your mind that this is who I want to hopefully buy it. It might be general, and that's okay. I think that that's one of the things that we get caught up sometimes when we hear business gurus and people that are experts in marketing, experts in advertising, experts in social media, that they want you to have this very specific, this person that you know everything about them. But it's okay to have general, in my opinion, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different taste. They all have a different view on health and wellness, on education, on all these things. So why can't you create posts that maybe it's for a group of people? Maybe it's for a population, a profession. Keep those in mind. And then the last question to keep in mind as we go through this podcast episode is, do you have a branding kit? Now, that's one of those things that if you've taken the course, Social Media for Fit Pros, we go through making a branding kit. And this is not a plug for that. It's just hey, this is such a necessary tool kind of thing. But that's always, when I've started for consulting for a company, that's the first thing I start at is a branding kit, because you don't want to see a million different fonts across social media. You want to use the same consistent fonts, colors, the exact color palettes that you use across your website, across your social media, across all the platforms that you're selling on, because it creates a brand cohesion. It all looks the same and people start to recognize that. And so, do you have a branding kit? If not, just get one. And when I say get one, it's free. It doesn't cost money to make your own branding kit. There are tools out there that you could utilize. You could save it in a Word document if you want. You could save it in Canva if you use that. You could save it just on a scratch piece of paper. I have in the past in my desk, just had a scratch piece of paper that has the color of red that we use for KIPS, the color of gray that we use. And I still have those to this day because I'm just sentimental in that way. But do you have a branding kit, and is it easily accessible for you so you can use those across the board? Now, the first strategy that we're going to go over is one that I've done a whole lecture on. I mentioned briefly that I've lectured about this topic before, but to go a little more in depth on it, I actually lectured on this specific topic strategy at a conference, and it's one that I still follow. I still follow this one with KIPS to a degree. You can, of course, alter it, but really the big thing with it is that you now have a strategy that helps you check so many boxes. And I call this one YouTube-centered digital marketing. And I've wanted to make courses on this. I've wanted to do more with it, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But it's such a unique way of looking at it that it helps you check boxes I keep coming back to. Now, with YouTube-centered digital marketing, essentially what you're doing is you're making content for YouTube. So what could that be? It could be how-tos. It could be you breaking down exercises. It could be you talking about health and wellness. There's a plethora of things. And of course, you want to follow all the guidelines for YouTube, making sure that it's a certain length. You want to make sure you edit. You want to make sure it looks professional, all these different things. And at 2022, we're wrapping up 2022 now. Most likely you have a microphone. Most likely you have or know that you can use your phone as a quality camera. We have all these things. You have all these things readily available. So you can check off boxes there for YouTube, the basics. Now with creating content for YouTube now, you start to make your channel, but let's go down the line now. After I've made this video, I've written my description, I've made my title for it, I've made my thumbnail. Now I can take all that stuff that I made specifically for YouTube. Now I can chop it up for social media. I can pull clips. If I did one video per month, I could easily pull 30-second clips, 45-second clips, and use those for social media for 1, maybe 2 days of your 7-day schedule. Now let's take that even further. So just checked off Facebook, just checked off Instagram, just checked off LinkedIn. Now if you're working on building a blog, I could take and embed that video and use the text that I already wrote, the description, put that in my blog. Now I have a consistent way of upkeeping my blog. Now let's go to even the next level. You're building a newsletter. How do I create content for my newsletter? You just solved it right there. So I just checked off so many different elements there of how you can utilize this just one piece of content. You are making it for YouTube, checking off all the things that you want to put in a YouTube video. And now I can use it for social media. Now I can use it for my blog. Now I can use it for my newsletter. So it creates a starting point. It creates a starting point that you can now work with it. That's always the hardest part, in my opinion, for companies, is having a strategy of where to start, because you don't want to be that Fit Pro business owner that's every single day, oh, what should I be posting? Is this content going to be good? Is this reel going to be good? I don't know about this. You don't want to be spending hours upon hours trying to think of content, making content, and not really having a goal for it, a purpose for it. You get a starting point, again, that checks off so many boxes. And does this work? I'd like to think it does. Like I said, I use it with KIPS. It's something that has helped us build a YouTube channel. It has helped with having a strategy of selling courses. So it checks a lot of boxes. And if I was to think of a drawback, it'd probably be with the fresh new content, because you're reusing clips from it. Yes, you can jazz them up. You can put animated text that flies in each one for each new clip. Yeah, that's great. But if there was a drawback of it, maybe it's that people have seen you talk about this and they know that you didn't just film that today. But in my opinion, people don't really care. That's one of those things that I feel like some marketers say, oh, no, you need to be filming fresh new stuff every single. No, you don't. In my opinion, and if you are doing that, you're wasting a lot of time, because you should be filming stuff before and then using it when it's appropriate, because you don't want to be spending all this time just trying to film stuff on the day. So that is YouTube-centered digital marketing in a nutshell. And there are so many free resources out there that if you were listening to me break down where you start, the basics, and all those other elements, newsletter, blog, social media, all that kind of stuff, there are so many free resources out there that can help you with those steps and figuring those out. Yes, we do have the course, and this is a plug there for the course, Social Media for Fitness Professionals. And we do go through all those things there, but this is a way to start. It's a way to start and a way to at least hopefully have a purpose with all the content that you create. Now, the next type of content I'm going to talk about is filler posts. And filler posts, in my opinion, there may be phrases, there may be inspirational posts, there may be just an image or just your branding on something. And the best example that I can give you, if you follow my other company, Time to Train Fitness, each week I schedule two quotes, fitness quotes, health quotes, and I put a little comment in the description for it. Those are filler posts. They just help with the consistency. They help keep some relevancy, and I can use them to then repost it in a story. And the biggest thing that I'm going to come back to that I talked earlier about is the branding. Is if you are going to utilize this strategy, brand it. Use your colors, use your fonts, use some elements of your logo, because it helps create that consistency and brand awareness. Don't just use some random font that you like this week or that you saw some other post. Use your own branding. Take the time to make it seem like it is coming directly from your company, that it is an original post. Take that time, because it really pays off. So that is a filler post. I think it's a great way to fill that 7-day schedule. I have briefly, and I should have talked about it a little bit more earlier, is with a strategy, I'm always thinking it in terms of a 7-day social media strategy. What do I post on each day? What do I schedule? I do use scheduling tools myself. There are free ones out there that I utilize and have talked about, and I still don't get why people don't use it. Creator Studio with Facebook is 100% free, and it's made by Facebook, and you can post on Instagram and on Facebook. It's amazing, in my opinion. But there's other ones that you can utilize for LinkedIn, for Twitter, and there's cheap ones for that. You just got to really go find one that works for your budget. There's just so many out there. And in my opinion, a lot of them do the same exact thing. So with consistency now and a 7-day posting schedule, this is where filler posts can schedule in, because again, it's hard to think of 7 days, consistent news stuff, and having a filler post in there, it's all good in my book, as long as it keeps on brand with what you're trying to sell. Now, before we wrap this up, I want to talk about types of posts that I use. And I've talked about this a little bit already. Now, with Time to Train and KIPS, they're two separate audiences, and I touched on this in the introduction. They're two separate audiences, and it's important that I keep that in mind. I keep that in mind with the content in there, the words that I'm using, and where am I sending people. With this example that I'm going to give right here, this is where pushing people to certain areas really comes into play. With the content that you're posting, where do you want them to go? When you post something, what is the action that you want them to take? Now, let's compare KIPS and Time to Train. Typically with KIPS, I want them to go to the link in the bio, which is a link from the website, and it gives you options of where to click next. I want them to go to the website because ultimately we want them to buy our courses. We want them to buy their online courses. Now with Time to Train Fitness, a YouTube workout channel, that's different. We want them to go to YouTube. We don't want them to go to the website. Do we have one? Yes, but we want them to go to YouTube to subscribe, take the workouts, engage. So it's two different areas, but there's similar concepts in there. But of course, the wording is going to differ because we want these audiences to go to different places. Something to briefly talk about before we wrap it up here is stories and reels. Very important, have really grown over the last few years, and finding a way to figure these out, grow with them, it's important. I still, in my opinion, have not maximized those with both companies because they're tough. Reels take time. They take time, and quality ones really take a lot of time. So figuring those things out, practicing them, maybe doing them on your personal account, trying to figure out ways that you can fit them in here and there, because they really do work. I've seen a big difference in the content that's posted from Reels on Instagram, then reposting it on Facebook, taking that same one, posting it on Facebook. I've seen a big difference in likes and engagement. So definitely they should not be ignored. They should be maybe fit into your schedule somehow. If you're using a scheduling tool, maybe having a day every Friday, every Saturday, I'm going to create a reel. And you can now spend some of that time that you saved from having a strategy to think about, okay, this week I'm going to make a reel about this, or on Wednesday, I need to create content that I'm going to be using for this reel eventually, scheduling that out. Those are some of the benefits from having a strategy, is that you can now place time in other areas, things that will take up more time eventually, like reels, that you can hopefully figure out ways to do those in your schedule. But that's where you save time with a strategy. With stories, on the other hand, stories can be a great way to give someone a direct link. That's one of the tools that I've seen on Instagram that's really powerful, is how you can include a link in a story. If you haven't figured that out yet, go check it out, because it's super powerful, because you could send someone directly where you want in a story. People like stories. People like to watch stories. They're a little quick. They can be whatever you want. But when you can put a hashtag, you can put a link in there, you can tag someone, you could have it still be engaging, even though it's quick, and you have a link in there where you want to send them money. Direct money, cash that check right away. So those are things that I use on a regular basis with the different audiences, my goal with each, stories, reels, my thoughts on those, all very powerful tools. Really, I hope that throughout all this, you got the sense of where this can fit in your schedule. My last closing tip here, stay up with the times. These things change, these things alter, these things adapt, and you have to adapt with them. That's one of the sad truths of social media, is you have to adapt with them. They're not going to stick to what maybe you were doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You need to adapt, stay current, and utilize them, because in some ways they are free. Of course, there are paid elements of them, but they are free, and you can use them to build your business. As I started the episode, and now I'm going to wrap it up here, is don't forget there's a learning curve. It takes time to learn these. Stay consistent, build off of each one, and hopefully at the end of it, be like, wow, I really improved in this, and I feel confident to take on other areas. That's been it for this episode. There'll be some resources in the description for you to utilize to continue building your business, and I'll see you in the next one.